Welcome to MMC, a business that has been creating strength for 50 years. Our success is built on a solid foundation of grit and innovation, characteristics that have seen us through many changes and will serve us well into the future. In this video, we take you on a tour of our company, from where it all began to where we are today. First up is a geography lesson as we look at the oldest points on our timeline. In 1946, the US Bureau of Mines published a detailed report on the production of electrolytic manganese metal, known as EMM. In 1954, the very first EMM was made in South Africa, in an experimental cell at Wits University in Johannesburg. In 1955, the Electrolytic Manganese Corporation EMCOR was established. EMCOR built a pilot plant for EMM in Krugersdorp, close to Johannesburg. In 1960, EMCOR's pilot plant grew to support commercial production of 2,500 tons per year. By 1968, EMCOR changed its feed completely to manganese ore from the Kalahari Basin, and capacity grew to 16,500 tons per year. A new company, Delta Manganese, was established in 1971, and construction on a plant in Nelspruit began in the next year. In June 1974, production started at today's facility, and it has not stopped once. Of course, none of this would have happened without some incredibly committed people. People who had the vision, belief, and grit to make all of this happen. And this is where the really interesting history lies. Back in 1955, two of the founding members of EMCOR, Max Harris and Doug Mayer, were researching the electrowinning of manganese using a manganese hydroxide precipitated from a uranium effluent. The effluent was obtained from West Rand Consolidated Mine, a gold and uranium producer. Over the next decade, Max and Doug were instrumental in overcoming the problem of how to process South African manganese ore, which has a high concentration of iron. They were part of EMCOR until 1971, when, together with Langham Carter, they decided to form a new company and become South Africa's second EMM producer. Two engineers, one accountant, and the South African Industrial Development Corporation, the IDC, attracted investment from the Delta Metal Company in the UK, which had been established in 1888, and so Delta Manganese was formed. A big question people ask is why we are located where we are. In the early 1970s, being located at the mine in the Kalahari Desert was not an option. Various sites in South Africa were considered, and the area then known as Nelspruit in the Eastern Transvaal was chosen. It had access to abundant coal power and a sufficient water supply. It was also close to the port of Lorenzo Marques. Establishing operations there would create jobs in what was then a deeply rural area. Today, we operate from the same site, only the names have changed. Nelspruit is now known as Mbombela in Mpumalanga province, and Lorenzo Marques is now called Maputo. The first exports were made in 1974, once the construction and commissioning of the initial capacity of 12,000 tons per year had been completed. The high-purity flake and powder products were well received by overseas customers. The very first sales agents for these products were Elkin Trading and Foot Mineral Company. By 1977, capacity was increased to 17,500 tons per year. A brochure from that same year states that, in the brief period from 1974 to 1977, the company established a reputation as a reliable supplier of EMM. The company's policy is to ensure fast, efficient service to customers with particular attention to individual needs, and to maintain close liaison with all parties concerned with exporting, such as railway and harbour authorities, shipping and sales agents. These same values are very much in place today, because the secret to building a powerful brand with a strong reputation is having a quality product and quality people. People who are able to build teams and build enduring relationships with customers and suppliers. Fast forward a few years to 1985, when Samancor Manganese became the new owner of both EMCOR and Delta Manganese, and the name Manganese Metal Company, or MMC, was used for the first time. Delta's EMD facilities remained separate. Later, BHP Billiton would be the majority owner of MMC via Samancor Manganese, and for many years, MMC was operated as a BHP asset. The relationship with Wessels Mine, owned by Samancor Manganese and the source of MMC's feed material, continues to this day via South 32. And our capacity has grown to 28,000 tonnes per year. The MMC bulk bag, originally sporting 3 geometric letters in cyan blue, became well known in the industry, and so did the company's reputation for product quality. MMC's model of strong relationships with agents and customers saw the business through to the next millennium, even as the sharp rise of EMM capacity in China in the 1990s resulted in US production of EMM closing down in 2000. At that time, MMC's strategy was refocused. Large market share was no longer the goal, and the Krugersdorp plant was closed in 2006. MMC became a niche supplier of only high-quality, selenium-free and sustainable EMM, with the slogan, "The first choice in pure manganese." Since then, the company has remained focused on clearly differentiating its market segment from Chinese supply. In 2010, BHP Billiton decided to divest their 51% ownership of MMC, and MM Holdings, the current owner of MMC, came into being. 3 years later, MM Holdings acquired the remaining shares of MMC from Valmont Industries, then the majority owner of Delta EMD. Today, MMC is still owned and controlled by the directors of MM Holdings. In 2017, the logo and blue color scheme were replaced with today's black, purple, and grey logo, the letters representing black manganese ore, purple manganese solution, and the grey metal. And the previous slogan was replaced with a new purpose statement: creating strength. Of course, much has changed in the last 50 years. There have been developments in the plant, such as modernizing plant controls and instrumentation, reducing the cathode spacing, adding a briquetting plant, adding an Mn3O4 production plant, and producing manganese sulfate, iron sulfide, and nitrided manganese. Developments in process waste handling include the world-class Kingston Vale Residue Management Facility and the installation of an evaporation plant for leachate treatment. Amid all the change and progress, the grit and development of MMC's people form a constant thread. With a skilled and empowered workforce who live the value of inclusivity and are proud employees of MMC, we are building up communities and families, and laying a strong foundation for the next 50 years of creating strength.